From the East Coast, Miami, Florida, all the way over to southern Utah, 3,167 miles to be exact, Gainesville, Florida, to Tuskegee Airmen up in Alabama. From there, what did I do? That night I stayed at a Cracker Barrel, Graceland. Next up, Arkansas. Finally made my way up to Devil's Den State Park.
We've been driving for days and we're getting tired. What a view.
Now, Kansas, that's kind of where the adventure began. Kansas? I don't think I'd ever been in Kansas before at all.
Welcome to Kansas.
My plan was to go to Tallgrass Prairie, but then again, looking at my map route, I realized that there was something called Fort Scott on the way, which is another National Historic Site, so why not? So I went to Fort Scott, and really cool old fort. I've been going to a lot of forts recently, didn't think I was interested in them at all, but turns out I am. Fort Scott is a Civil War era 1800s fort in Fort Scott, Kansas. This was a fort for a bunch of soldiers that were patrolling the Kansas-Missouri border back in Civil War old-timey times. Obviously, I'm not a Civil War buff. Moving on, next up, 2 hours away, Tallgrass Prairie, which is when the adventure started to begin. So driving through Kansas was really, really cool because turns out there are a lot of birds of prey, hawks, falcons, that kind of thing in Kansas because they like to be up in the trees watching out over those farm fields so that they can hunt small mammals. So driving through there was just constantly me stopping on the side of the road and snapping photos and pulling out my bird guide. That night, I actually found a campsite really close to Tallgrass Prairie, and it was right on a lake. I rolled into my spot that I chose on the lake, and there was one single loteria card, which is this deck of cards in Hispanic cultures that they use, and it was for a heron, like the wading bird, which seemed important in some way to me because I was traveling from the Everglades where I had been, where there are a ton of wading birds. So that seemed important in some sort of way. That was the night when the wind really started to pick up.
That wind really kicked up last night.
So I was up part of the night thanks to the wind, but also because there was a great horned owl that was hooting. They were doing a duet, actually.
So first thing I'm going to do is look for the owl I heard hooting all night, because I bet it's around here somewhere. I hope. I'm going to find it.
So that is when I decided to hike in Tallgrass Prairie, which is wide open. You think about a national monument in Kansas, and at least to me, I didn't really know what to expect, but I had heard really good things, so I made it a priority to stop there. Again, a lot of really awesome history. It was basically a rich family that moved to the area to farm for agricultural reasons. So they built everything out top of the line. You can tour the house, which has been refurbished. You can go into the barn. Sailor and I decided to do some hiking through there. It was really awesome to look out and just see bison laying there, watching the clouds roll through. The wind, again, Kansas, the wind. We have about 8 hours to go because we're headed towards Rocky Mountain National Park. The problem is it is extremely windy today, so this is going to be an interesting adventure. Here's the thing, driving a high-profile vehicle like a van with a high roof is incredibly difficult in the wind. It's like a sail. You feel like you're gonna fly off the road. There were a few times when I really thought I was gonna fly off the road. I was actually driving with my hazards on at certain points. The lady in the gas station told me that this was normal in Kansas in the springtime, and that someone had reported a 100-mile-per-hour wind gust the night before. Tumbleweeds going across the road, just stalks of crops flying around. It was chaos. And of course, that is when my tire pressure decided to start going down. So I had to stop not once, but 2 times to try to fill up that tire pressure. And that wind continued all the way into Colorado. Drove into Colorado. I was really hoping that it would start getting better, but honestly, that wind just kept on going through Colorado. Eventually, I kind of just had to stop for the night. Found a rest stop that I could stop at, parked there, whatever. It worked. I just had to take a break and reset because driving like that is just, it's just... Now, our goal from this point was to get to Rocky Mountain National Park. But first up, we made our way into Estes Park, which is right outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. And honestly, at that point, I was just done. I just wanted to plug in somewhere and spend the day catching up on work, relaxing, just doing all those things. I found a campground that had hookups in the winter time, which there aren't that many available. We had the whole place to ourselves. It was on this flowing river. In that kind of cold, I need a hookup because to run my heater, I can't do it on my batteries. I don't have that big of a battery bank, so that's gonna run my batteries down really quick. But the next morning, we made our way bright and early into Rocky Mountain National Park. We're going for some really creative camera angles here. We are in Estes Park, just outside of Rocky Mountain National Park, and stayed in an established campground last night because it is really cold and really windy, so we needed a plug-in to use heat. It's cold. We're just gonna get going now and head into Rocky Mountain National Park. If you've ever visited Rocky Mountain in the summertime, you know that it is slammed with people. They have actually moved to a reservation system. If you want to avoid all that, all you have to do is go to Rocky Mountain National Park when it is about 20 degrees and the wind is at about 30 miles per hour. Turns out nobody in their right mind wants to be out there in that. Sailor loves the snow. So she was having a blast just running around. We hiked around a little bit, but honestly, like even with gloves, your hands are going numb. That wind. Then the next day is when it started to get nice. The wind started to calm down. It was sunnier. It was about 10 degrees warmer. So that is why I stuck around an extra day. Decided to take a hike. I am not used to hiking in snow, as you can imagine, but it was a pretty well marked hike. Somehow coming back from the lake, I lost my way. I fell in. Oops. And it's because of social trails. So let's talk about social trails for a second. When you start going off trail and creating your own trails, other people will follow that trail, and it gets really confusing because you don't know which way to go. I just got fucking lost. Makes it really confusing if you're going off trail and creating paths of your own. Also, while we're on the subject, don't do this. This is dumb. I did get my way back. Unfortunately, I didn't go back to the place where I had started and where the van was parked and where Sailor was. I ended up somewhere else, and I actually had to hitch a ride with these 3 awesome girls from Kentucky who took pity on me and gave me a ride back to my van. If they ever see this, they won't. But if they ever do, thank you. I needed that. next day we had to head out, and that was on to the next stop. Our next stop was Dinosaur National Monument in Utah. Apple Maps told me that the fastest route was whatever route it was, and I decided to take that because that sounds great. And it ended up taking me on a route, they said this was the fastest route. Whatever, it did get me to where I was going, and I decided to stay the night in Colorado in a town called Dinosaur. I slept behind the visitor center, which was actually really nice. The sun was out and the wind wasn't crazy whipping around. It's such a cool little town because everything is dinosaur themed. The street names, all the imagery, everything. It's obviously a gateway town to Dinosaur National Monument. This park is so cool. Yes. This is one of the richest dinosaur fossil beds known on Earth. There are so many dinosaur bones that are embedded in the different layers there. And the reason why is because it's at the convergence of two rivers. So over time, what happened is all the bones and things that have collected down in that area, those rivers have washed them down and they all kind of collected in this one area. So after Dinosaur, we made our way to southern Utah. Then it started to be familiar territory, made our way down to where we're going to be for the rest of the season, for about the next 6 months. Once Sailor started recognizing where we were, she started to get really excited and started whining. She wanted out of the car. So right now we are just adjusting to being back here. I have been in training for the last week. But that's about it. That was our trip, and we are here and we are plugged in, and it is nice and warm and toasty in the van, and thank God for that because it's cold outside. So thanks for watching. You know the drill. Thanks for being here, and questions, or I don't know, say hi in the comments, and always find us on social media. That's it. That's it. She's passed out. She's done. So, alright, see you soon. I hate the goodbye, I get real... This area, richest dinosaur beds, one of Earth's richest known dinosaur... This is one of the richest dinosaur fossil beds known on Earth.